Today's project is a 14-inch roof raise on this bus here behind me. And in this video, I want to show you kind of our thoughts about how we do a roof raise, why we do things the way we do, and give you a bit of idea of our plan for this cut and lift. So every bus is different, and each one has its own unique shape, the position of the rub rails, all kinds of things that you have to consider. This one you'll notice up here is also angled, and that's something you have to deal with. We just deal with that as part of our kind of flat fee for the roof raise. But I'm going to turn around and show you what we're going to do on this one and how we can do it so that hopefully from the outside it really doesn't look like it was modified. Our plan for this is a 14-inch roof raise, which is what the customer wants. And I could just cut it here and then do an overlap and rivet that seam. But now you've got something that really will not look very factory. So what we do is we remove this rub rail here, and then we take the rivets out of the bottom of this one. We'll do our cuts. It's actually going to be 2 cuts in the sheet metal so that I can get access to enough of the interior hat channel, the struts or ribbing inside the bus, to be able to weld new support structure, new ribbing in there. And then we will put a new piece of sheet metal in that's not 14 inches tall. It's actually going to be this width, which is about 8 inches plus 14 inches. The top piece will slide under here, and the bottom seam then will overlap this skin, which comes up here. So this new skin will overlap the lower one behind this rub rail, and then we will put this rail back on, hiding that seam. Everything gets sealed with, you could use Dynatron or others. We really like to use the 3M 5200, that's 5200. It's amazing stuff. It's about as permanent as I have ever seen, and it just really, it bonds well. It creates a structural bond. We will put that over every rib inside, and then also on all of the lap joints. And then we will rivet this bottom back on. So the panel will go under here. Now we could just take these top rivets off, but now you've got to take the panel that you're putting in and flex it and try to tuck it in above and below. And it's really just easier, we find, to take the whole rail off. Seems like kind of a pain. These are solid buck rivets, and I will show you in a separate video how we take those out. But really it goes pretty quickly. We take the rail off, and then that way we've got good access to it. It makes it faster overall. I'll take you around to the other side of the bus and show you half of this is done. So you can see on this side, that is not the rub rail, that's just the dirt. The rub rail is a curved piece that comes around and stops right up there. And so that piece we have taken off over here. And then we have taken off this lower rub rail all the way up to the front. Pardon me while I dodge the obstacles. We also took out all these rivets here, and that way we can separate this seam, and the new panel now will get riveted back in with these same holes. So it's going to look really factory. The new panel, like I said, we will slide it underneath here. It'll only go up to about there because there is a rib formed into the skin that's underneath this rub rail. Say that 5 times fast. There is a rib formed in the skin underneath the rub rail here, but the new panel will slide up under there. It will be lapped over with the 3M 5200 sealant. It'll come down here and overlap, and then the new joint will be hidden by this rub rail that we will rivet back on in place. So this seam here will just be taller, and I think very difficult to tell that it's not factory. The only difference is that these are solid rivets. The rivets we use are closed-end stainless rivets. They're strong and very structurally sound, and because they're closed-end on the back, they won't let water penetrate through the rivet, through the tube, but there will be a little hole on the front. It'll look a little bit like this riv nut, so there'll be a little hole on the front, but the owner can do whatever they want. They could fill that with a little Bondi. Having a tough time this morning. Time for more coffee. Fill it with a little Bondo body putty, or some kind of a sealant caulk or something like that, just for decorative purposes. But other than that, it's super sound. This will be waterproof in there because that'll be sealed with the 5200. We will take this off. This is a cap that is basically flat on the front and folded over on the back. We'll take this whole thing off and then make a taller one of it. So when we cut, I guess it should back up some. So we'll make the cut along here and take the outer skin off wide enough so we can get access to the ribs here and here. And then the rib will get cut. We will do a vertical cut in here and then over the top of the driver's window. And then that seam will get covered with a new one of these that will rivet back in place. So you won't see that seam. Down here it will look like factory because this will just be new. And then the rub rail and the windows will move up and you'll have a new smooth skin all the way down the side of the bus. Okay, so I told you what we're doing here. We cut along here. We'll take that trim strip off and cut up. We will take out those rivets so we can raise up over the window so the driver's window will stay in place. And here, the line of 1,000,000 rivets. There are a couple ways of doing that. We're actually going to take all of those out. It's kind of a pain, but that way we can take apart that seam, lift it up, put in a new strip, rivet it at the bottom and the top, and there won't be some separate line up there. It's kind of, I would say it's challenging just because that's a lot of rivets and it's hard to get to those on the inside, but we will go through that process later in the video and I think it's worth it because the result's really clean. So it'll come down here, come apart right there. That will all get raised up and then along the back. Above the door, I'm just taking the screws out and I will pull this strip off and that will give me a nice place where I can make a transition with the cut. We'll raise up here and then put in a new piece that will end up coming down behind this strip, which we'll reapply. Now that the inside skins up front are removed and we have access, remember down here is that lower rub rail, and this is the bottom of the upper rub rail. So we'll do our cut in there, and then up in this channel and over the window, we're going to leave the drip rail on top of the driver's window. Cut over there, cut these braces out. These are all those rivets that I've got to grind out on the inside lip. And again, I could just cut across the top, but this will look really clean and very factory-like when we're done. And then the door frame is loose, so we'll cut across the door and down and back. And the Rivetopia, the never-ending line of rivets is done. That actually only took about an hour once we got access to the inside. So there you go.